The combat arena smelled like burnt ozone and desperation. Rina Vasquez stood at the edge of the designated fighting circle, rolling her shoulders while 300 alien cadets watched from the elevated platforms surrounding the pit. Every single one of them wanted to see the human fail. Every single one of them expected her to break. She could feel their eyes on her back, crawling across her skin like insects. The Cavalry instructor, a 7-foot-tall reptilian creature named Theskor, gestured toward the circle with one clawed hand. His vertical pupils narrowed as he spoke in that grating, hissing voice that made her teeth ache. Vasquez, you have exactly 60 seconds to prove you belong in this academy. Failure means immediate expulsion. Failure means your species loses its only slot in the Galactic Defense Corps training program. Rina cracked her knuckles, one at a time. Pop. Yeah, I got it. 60 seconds. Don't lose. Blah, blah, blah. The crowd erupted in shocked chittering and clicking sounds. Apparently, talking back to instructors was not standard operating procedure here. Rina grinned. Good. Let them get used to being uncomfortable around her. Theskor's tongue flicked out, tasting the air. His expression was unreadable, but she caught the slight twitch in his jaw. Annoyance. Perfect. Your opponent will be Krael of House Barracks. He has never lost a challenge match. From the opposite entrance, a massive alien stomped into the arena. Krael stood at least 8 feet tall, built like a walking tank covered in dark blue scales and ridge bone plating. 4 arms, each one thicker than Rina's entire torso. His species, the Director, were renowned across 12 systems as the galaxy's premier warriors. Their bones were twice as dense as human bones. Their muscle fibers could generate 3 times the force. The crowd started chanting his name. Krael, Krael, Krael. Rina yawned. Krael entered the circle, his 4 fists clenched. He looked down at her, the way someone might look at a bug they were about to squash. Human, he rumbled, his voice like grinding stone. I will try to make this quick. You do not deserve to suffer. Oh, how sweet. You're worried about little old me. His eyes narrowed. All 6 of them. Do not mock me, soft thing. I have killed enemies twice your size before breakfast. Rina tilted her head, studying him, calculating. Her instructors back on Earth had drilled it into her skull. When you're smaller, when you're weaker, when you're outmatched in every measurable way, you don't fight fair. You fight smart. You fight mean. You fight to win. And you absolutely never let them see you sweat. Twice my size? Wow. So, what? You killed a bunch of really short people. Congrats, I guess. The crowd gasped. Actual gasps. Like she had just committed some horrible social crime. Krael's scales darkened, shifting from blue to deep purple. Anger. His species wore their emotions on their skin. Perfect. Theskor raised one clawed hand. Combat begins in 3, 2, 1. Begin. Krael charged immediately, all 4 arms spreading wide to grapple. He moved fast for something so huge, closing the distance in 2 massive strides. The ground shook under his weight. Rina didn't move. She waited. At the last possible second, she dropped into a baseball slide, going low and fast between his legs. Her boots scraped against the arena floor as she shot past him, popping up behind his massive frame. Krael spun confused, searching for her. Over here, big guy. He turned, snarling, and swung with 2 of his 4 arms. Huge haymakers that would have pulverized her skull if they connected. Rina ducked the first, rolled under the second, and came up inside his guard, too close for him to hit effectively. She drove her fist into the soft spot just below his rib cage. Not hard enough to do real damage, but enough to make him grunt and step back. The crowd went silent. Krael stared at her, disbelief written across his alien features. You dare strike me? Well, yeah, that's kind of how fights work. His scales turned from purple to almost black. Rage. Pure, unfiltered rage. I will crush you. He came at her again, but this time he wasn't holding back. All 4 arms swinging in coordinated patterns, trying to corner her, trap her, break her. Rina moved like water, flowing between his attacks, never staying in one place long enough for him to land a solid hit. Duck, weave, roll, sidestep, jump back. She could hear her own breathing, sharp and controlled, could feel the adrenaline singing through her veins. This was the part she loved, the part where physics and biology stopped matching, and everything came down to pure, beautiful chaos. Krael roared in frustration and lunged forward, trying to grab her with all 4 arms at once. Big mistake. Rina sidestepped at the last second, letting his momentum carry him forward. She grabbed one of his massive wrists with both hands, planted her feet, and used his own weight against him. Judo throw. Basic technique. Except she modified on the fly, twisted her hips and yanking downward while simultaneously sweeping his legs. Krael went airborne. For half a second, the massive director warrior hung suspended in the air, arms flailing, eyes wide with shock. Then gravity remembered it existed. He crashed to the ground with a sound like a building collapsing. The entire arena shook. Dust billowed up from the impact point. The crowd erupted, not in cheers, in absolute, stunned silence. Rina stood over him, hands on her hips, breathing hard but grinning. Guess all that bone density makes you fall harder. Krael groaned, trying to push himself up. Rina could have pressed her advantage, could have attacked while he was down. But that wasn't the point. The point was to prove she belonged here. The point was to show these aliens that humans might be small, might be soft, might be weak by their standards, but humans were survivors, and survivors didn't play by anyone else's rules. Krael made it to his feet, swaying slightly. His scales were shifting colors rapidly. Confusion, anger, embarrassment. He looked at her with something that might have been respect hidden deep in those 6 eyes. How? How did you do that? Rina shrugged. You're strong, really strong, but you fight like someone who's always been the biggest thing in the room. You rely on power. Me? I had to learn to fight dirty from day one. Different strategies, different rules. Theskor stepped forward, his expression unreadable. 30 seconds remaining. Krael charged again, but this time he was thinking, calculating, trying to adapt. He kept the center of gravity lower, moved more carefully, used his reach advantage to keep her at a distance. Smart. Rina circled him, looking for an opening. Her muscles were starting to burn. Earth gravity was lighter than the standard galactic norm. She had been training in higher gravity for months to prepare for this, but it still took a toll. Come on, give me something. Krael feinted with his lower right arm, then shot forward with his upper left, trying to grab her shoulder. Rina saw it coming, twisted away, but not quite fast enough. His fingers brushed her uniform, then closed around her from behind. Got you, his expression said. The crowd leaned forward, anticipating the finish. Rina felt his massive arm wrap around her torso, felt him start to lift her off the ground. Most people would have panicked. Most people would have struggled uselessly against that crushing grip. Rina smiled. She grabbed his arm with both hands, used it as leverage, and threw herself backward into a hard roll. Her spine pressed against his chest as she tucked her knees up, planted her feet against his midsection, and pushed off with every ounce of strength she had left. The move was called a tomo nage, stomach throw, one of the oldest techniques in judo, and it worked beautifully. Krael's own grip became his downfall. Rina used his hold on her as an anchor point, converting her backward momentum into rotational force. His massive body flipped over her, carried by physics' surprise and his own damn strength. She rolled her feet as Krael went sailing through the air, straight out of the combat circle. He landed in a heat beyond the boundary line, arms and legs tangled, scales flashing a dozen different colors at once. Silence. Then Theskor's voice, flat and emotionless. Human Vasquez wins. Combat complete. Time remaining 9 seconds. The arena exploded. Some aliens were cheering. Some were hissing in anger. Some were making sounds Rina couldn't even identify. She stood in the center of the circle, chest heaving, fists still clenched, and slowly raised both hands above her head in victory. Krael pulled himself up, looking dazed. He stared at Rina for a long moment, then did something unexpected. He laughed. Deep, rumbling laughter that echoed through the arena. Incredible. Truly incredible. You fight like a creature 10 times your size, trapped in a body far too small. Rina walked over and offered him her hand. He looked at it, confused, then carefully took it with one of his massive hands. She helped pull him to his feet. Well, she mimed helping. He did most of the actual work. Good match, she said. Good match, he agreed. Then quieter. I underestimated you. That will not happen again. Looking forward to the rematch. Big guy. Thescor approached them both, his expression still unreadable. Vasquez, you will report to advanced combat training starting tomorrow. Krael, you will join her. Clearly you both have much to learn from each other. Rina felt the weight of hundreds of eyes still on her. The human, the soft, weak, fragile human who had just thrown an 8-foot-tall warrior out of the combat circle like he was a sack of potatoes. She had their attention now. Good, because this was just the beginning. As she walked out of the arena, she could hear whispers following her, some respectful, some fearful, some angry. She caught fragments of conversations in a dozen different languages. Did you see that? How did she move so fast? Humans are more dangerous than the reports indicated. We should have never allowed them into the program. Rina kept walking, kept her head high, kept that confident smile on her face even though every muscle in her body was screaming. She had won the first battle, but she knew, deep in her bones, that the real war was just getting started, and she was going to enjoy every single second of it. Retrial of Barracks smelled like disinfectant and metal. Rina sat on her bunk, wrapping ice packs around her knuckles while her roommate, a tall insectoid creature named Zira, watched with her compound eyes gleaming in the dim light. That was either the bravest thing I have ever witnessed, Zira clicked, her mandibles moving in what Rina had learned was amusement, or the most foolish. I have not decided which. Rina winced as she flexed her fingers. Why not both? A fair assessment. 3 weeks had passed since the arena incident. 3 weeks of brutal training, hostile glares, and whispered conversations that stopped the moment she entered a room. The other cadets treated her like a bomb that might detonate at any moment. Some gave her a wide berth. Others tested her constantly, looking for weaknesses, waiting for her to slip up. She loved every minute of it. But tonight felt different. Tonight the air in the barracks carried a tension that made her skin prickle. Zira's antennae twitched. You should know. There is talk. Some of the director cadets are not pleased with how you humiliated Krael. They believe you cheated somehow. They are planning something. Let them plan. I'll deal with it. Rina. Zira's voice went serious, losing its usual musical quality. They are not planning a sanctioned match. They are planning an accident, the kind that happens during night maneuvers when instructors are not watching. Rina stopped wrapping her hands, looked up when, tonight, during the wilderness survival exercise, the instructors will be monitoring from base camp. Too much ground to cover. Too many places where someone could get lost or hurt. How many? 5, maybe 6. All director, all loyal to Krael's house. Rina stood up, rolling her shoulders. The ice packs fell to the floor. Good. That's a nice round number. Zira made a clicking sound that might have been a sigh. You're going to fight them anyway, are you not? Not if I can avoid it. But if they come looking for trouble? Rina grinned, sharp and cold. I'll make sure they find more than they bargained for. The wilderness zone stretched for kilometers in every direction. Dense forest, rough terrain, minimal visibility. Perfect place for an ambush. Perfect place to make someone disappear. Rina moved through the undergrowth quietly, her training kicking in automatically. Watch your footfalls. Control your breathing. Stay aware of your surroundings. The forest here was alien, filled with trees that glowed faintly in the darkness and plants that tracked movement with disturbing intelligence. She had been out here for 2 hours, completing the navigation course, when she felt it, that prickle on the back of her neck, the sensation of being watched. They were here. Rina kept moving forward, acting like she noticed nothing. But her muscles tensed. Ready? Her mind raced through scenarios, calculating angles, planning counters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 heat signatures moving through the trees, trying to stay hidden. Amateurs. They move like people who had always relied on strength and numbers. They had no idea how to hunt something that actually fought back. Rina reached a small clearing and stopped, turned around slowly. I know you're out there. Might as well show yourselves. Silence. Then movement. 5 massive director warriors stepped out from the shadows, surrounding her. Each one nearly as big as Krael, each one armed with practice weapons. Wooden staffs that could still break bones if used correctly. The leader, a brute with dark green scales and a scar across his snout, grinned. His name was Vorthak. She had seen him watching her with undisguised hatred during training sessions. Human, you should not have come out here alone. Rina raised an eyebrow. Funny, I was just thinking the same thing about you guys. Vorthak's grin faded. You embarrassed my brother Krael. Made him look weak in front of the entire academy. That dishonor must be answered. Your brother lost fair and square. Maybe if you spent less time plotting revenge and more time training, you wouldn't need 5 guys to take down 1 human. The director behind her growled, a deep rumbling sound that vibrated through the air. They started closing in, staffs raised. Rina didn't move, just stood there, hands loose at her sides, watching them all with eyes that had gone flat and cold. Last chance to walk away, she said quietly. Vorthak laughed. Walk away? From a single unarmed human? You're either brave or insane. Again, why not both? He raised his staff. Attack. They came at her from all sides simultaneously. Coordinated. Trained. 5 8-foot-tall warriors moving in perfect sync. Rina exploded into motion. She went low and fast, dropping into a slide that took her between 2 of them, came up behind the one on her left, grabbed his staff, and yanked hard. He stumbled forward, off balance. She drove her elbow into the back of his knee, heard something pop, and he went down with a howl of pain. 1 down. Staff, swinging at her head from the right. She ducked, felt the wind from the blow ruffle her hair, grabbed the weapon mid-swing, used the attacker's momentum against him, and threw him face first into a tree. He hit hard, stayed down. 2 down. Vorthak roared and charged, staff raised high for an overhead strike. Rina waited until the last second, sidestepped, and let him smash his own weapon into the ground. While he was recovering, she swept his legs. He crashed down, all that weight and muscle working against him. The remaining 2 hesitated, looked at each other, looked at their 3 companions groaning on the ground. Still want to do this? Rina asked, breathing hard but still standing. Because I can keep going all night. One of them dropped his staff and stepped back. The other followed. Smart. They had finally figured out that size and strength meant nothing if you couldn't land a hit. Vorthak pulled himself up, scales flashing red with rage and humiliation. This is not over, human. Yes, it is. The voice came from the tree-line, cold and authoritative. Everyone froze. Theskor stepped into the clearing, followed by 3 other instructors. His eyes swept across the scene, taking in the injured director, the dropped weapons, Rina standing in the center of it all. Cadets Vorthak, Drex, Corvin, Thex, and Malthus. You will report to the disciplinary barracks immediately. Attacking a fellow cadet outside of sanctioned combat is grounds for immediate expulsion. Vorthak opened his mouth to protest. Theskor's tail lashed once, sharp as a whip crack. Immediately, the 5 director limped away, shooting venomous glares at Rina. She watched them go, then turned to Theskor. You knew they were planning this. It was not a question. Theskor's vertical pupils fixed on her. I suspected, but I needed proof, and I needed to see how you would handle it. So you used me as bait. Yes. Rina laughed, sharp and bitter. Nice. Real nice. You were never in any real danger. We were monitoring the situation. If they had used lethal force, we would have intervened immediately. He paused. But they did not, and you handled yourself admirably. Again, is this going to keep happening? Aliens deciding they need to put the human in her place. Thescor tilted his head, studying her. Probably. You represent something that frightens them. You are small, you are weak by our standards, and yet you continue to win. That violates their understanding of how the universe works. It threatens their sense of superiority. So what am I supposed to do? Keep fighting every single alien who has a problem with humans? If necessary, yes. Or, he paused, you could teach them. Rina frowned. Teach them what? How you fight, how you think, how you turn disadvantages into advantages. The Galactic Defense Corps needs warriors who can adapt, who can overcome, who can survive against impossible odds. You have demonstrated all of those qualities. Share them. You want me to train the same people who just try to ambush me in the woods? Not them specifically. They will likely be expelled. But the others, the ones who are watching, the ones who are starting to realize that humans might have something to offer beyond brute strength. Rina was quiet for a long moment, thinking. Then she smiled, slow and dangerous. All right, I'll teach them, but we do it my way. Agreed. 2 months later, the combat arena looked different. Instead of one human standing alone against hundreds of hostile aliens, there were dozens of mixed species groups working together, learning, adapting. Rina stood at the center of the training circle, demonstrating a throw on a willing director volunteer. Around her, cadets from a dozen different species watched and practiced, their movements slowly becoming more fluid, more efficient. Krael approached, his scales a calm blue color. He had become something like a friend over the past weeks, or at least a respectful rival. Your methods are effective, he rumbled. Even our best warriors are learning new techniques. You have changed this place. Rina Vasquez. Changed it how? Before you arrived, we believed combat was about power, pure strength. The biggest, strongest, toughest warrior always won. You showed us that combat is about adaptation, about using everything you have, even if what you have seems insufficient. Rina wiped sweat from her forehead. I just showed you guys what humans have been doing since day one. Surviving. We're not the fastest, not the strongest, not the toughest, but we're stubborn, and we learn, and we never, ever give up. Krael made a rumbling sound that might have been laughter. I have noticed. Your species is terrifying in its persistence. I'll take that as a compliment. Thescor appeared at the edge of the arena, beckoning her over. Rina jogged over, still catching her breath. You wanted to see me, instructor? Your final evaluation has been moved up. The Defense Council wants to see a demonstration of human combat effectiveness. They are considering expanding the human enrollment in the Corps. Rina felt her heart rate spike. When? 3 days, you will face multiple opponents in succession. No breaks. No assistance. Full contact. The Council wants to see if your methods work under extreme pressure. How many opponents? As many as it takes until you cannot continue. Rina smiled, wide and fierce. Bring them on. 3 days later, she stood in the arena again. But this time, representatives from 30 different species filled the observation decks. Council members, military leaders, instructors, cadets. Everyone who mattered in the Galactic Defense Corps was watching. Rina cracked her knuckles. Pop, 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 pop. Her first opponent entered the ring. Then her second, then her third. She fought them all, one after another. Species from across the galaxy came at her with everything they had. She adapted, adjusted, overcame. When they came in high, she went low. When they used strength, she used speed. When they thought they had her figured out, she changed tactics completely. Hours passed. Her body screamed in protest. Her muscles burned. Blood ran from a dozen small cuts. But she kept fighting, kept moving, kept winning. By the time Thescor finally called an end to the demonstration, she had defeated 27 opponents without being knocked down once. She stood in the center of the arena, swaying slightly, hands on her knees, breathing like she had just run a marathon. The entire stadium was silent. Then someone started clapping. Then another. Then another. Within seconds, the entire arena erupted in applause. Not just polite recognition. Genuine, thunderous approval. Rina looked up at the observation deck where the council members sat. They were conferring quietly, their expressions grave but impressed. Finally, the head counselor, an ancient being whose species Rina could not identify, stood and spoke. Her voice carried across the arena without artificial amplification. The council has reached a decision. Humanity's petition for full membership in the Galactic Defense Corps is granted. Furthermore, Cadet Rina Vasquez is hereby promoted to junior instructor. She will be responsible for developing a new training program incorporating human combat philosophy. The crowd erupted again. Rina felt tears stinging her eyes, but refused to let them fall. Not here. Not now. She had fought too hard to show weakness at the moment of victory. Krael approached, scales shifting through every color in the spectrum. Pride, respect, joy. You did it, Rina. You proved what humans are capable of. She grinned up at him, exhausted and elated and absolutely triumphant. No, I proved what anyone is capable of if they refuse to quit. Human, alien, doesn't matter. We all bleed the same. We all fall down. What matters is whether we get back up. As she walked out of the arena for the last time as a cadet, she looked back at the combat circle, the place where she had been grabbed from behind, the place where she had thrown an 8-foot warrior over her shoulder and changed everything. The alien grabbed her from behind. She lifted him over her shoulder and threw him out of the circle. And in doing so, she threw open the doors for every human who would come after her.